All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the She Can Say It podcast. Today's episode, we're talking about African American women who have lost their jobs, whether laid off, fired, or beyond that. So we're going to ask Sister Tisha Davis is going to kick this conversation off. What's going on, Tisha?
Well, thank you so much. So, hey, Biz Sisters. So, this is our second time getting together, our second podcast, which is exciting. And this topic I had requested, so she handed me the ball. Basically, back in 2025, over 300,000 Black women have lost their jobs in the United States. Not many people are talking about it, but it's real. And it was done intentionally. It was systemic. And, it was done basically because of the new administration that we have in this country, who immediately, I want to say the first thing that was done was to eliminate DEI programs from corporate America. And not only was it suggested, but it was mandated because many of these corporations get funding from the government. So they were told if they continue to have their DEI programs, they would no longer get funded, which should never have been a criteria. But this is the way our country has been bullied. And so we have to reap the consequences of all of this foolishness. And as a result, so many of our Black women are unemployed and still unemployed because most of them were in the higher echelons of corporate America. So they made, lots of money, maybe, could be well over $200,000, whatever it is, they make zero. And it's not like they can easily replace the income or easily go to another company. These positions have been closed or closed to them. So we wanted to talk about that. We wanted to talk about, I guess we don't really have to say so much of the why, but how these Black women are coping, because we know that 80% of Black families are headed by women. So therefore, these women are the breadwinners of their household. They're taking care of their children, maybe their grandchildren, maybe their parents, and now they're not able to. And so what happens to them? Nobody's talking about this, not a soul. We're talking about everything else, every celebrity. We talking about running back to Target. We talking about all kind of foolishness. But what are these women gonna do? They've had to, some of them probably had to move out their house. Some of them probably had to get rid of their car. Car might have got repo. We don't know what people are dealing with and going through with these prices going crazy. The gas prices are insane because we got a fool that keeps starting wars all the time. And then we got the electric bills sky high because the government thought it was a good idea to tell these electric companies that they can go up by 34%. So, and food is sky high. So it's like, we people that got jobs are struggling. So imagine the ones that don't. And people are unemployed, not willingly. They didn't quit their jobs. They didn't decide they didn't feel like working anymore. They were working. And some of these companies, they devoted years, decades of their lives, and that's why I always say, like, don't give a company your life. Don't do it. Your job is not your life. Your job supports your life. And it's easy to say that we should be saving our money, we should be saving 10%, whatever the formula is for you. A lot of people don't do it. A lot of people are one paycheck away from being homeless, from getting put out their house or their apartments because they're not saving. People are living above their means or just enough to make it, borrowing from Pete to pay Paul, the whole thing. So, what help do we have for these women? So I know that two of us on the line are counselors and help, wanted to talk about the mental health of these women and women in general, because, I'm going to leave it there because I'm not one of them. But this is what we're talking about. So I'm going to flip it on back to you, Miss Erica.
All right. What in all seriousness, what you said is very serious, very serious. I mean, being employed, I unemployed, I can only imagine. I've always had a job, so I have not been there, and I cannot, speak to
Man,
how it actually feels. I have not been in the forefront of being unemployed, but I did have a best girlfriend who was unemployed. Her job just cut and cut her, and she had been there over 20 some odd years, and they just cut her out like nobody's business after they worked her to death,
oh,
after
yeah.
they started cutting and had her working all these obscene hours and doing all these obscene jobs, that jobs of like 2 to 3 people, had her doing it. And at the end of that, decided, okay, we don't need you no more. We're gonna let you go. Just like that, like she meant absolutely nothing. And
That's how they do it.
Tisha made
Corporate America, that sounds right. I've been unemployed 4 times, so I,
it.
I have a little mini certificate in unemployment.
Mhm. It's just it's no joke. And I'm saying that they just throw you away like trash. So why, like Tisha said,
Yes.
why give your life to a job? You do not do that.
Yes.
Do not sit and just work all these hours for a job and then not come home and do something for yourself. And we're going to touch a little bit on that because all of us are business owners. We do our own thing. So we got our own thing going on behind the scenes, and nobody can take that. That's a God-given gift that, that we have gotten and we use, and we're in the process of making everything grow behind the scenes. So when you have your own thing going on, that's one thing you can't be fired from. Nobody can take that away from you, is your gift. Whatever you do well, you can use that gift to make you money. You can use that gift to grow or whatever have you. And we a little later on, we're going to give you some tips and tricks on, things that you can do to get you through this season, because I can only imagine. I know we talk a whole lot of stuff about, oh, you can't worry and all this other his stuff. I know that stuff is out the door. And Tisha just said that before we got on here. She said, ain't nobody try to hear that. Ain't nobody try to hear none of that. And we get it, but it can be very detrimental if you don't watch your mental and emotional health during the season where you're unemployed and you didn't expect it. Your mind can go to so many dark places. And I've watched documentaries, and I've seen things on the news where people have literally committed suicide because
Mhm.
they lost their job. So it is no joke, and you don't want to get in that space. I'm gonna kick it over to Janelle, and Janelle is a therapist, and Janelle can give you some points and things on I guess what you can do mentally for yourself and emotionally to kind of take care of yourself during this season. All right, Janelle.
Thanks, Erica. But even too, I want to touch on something that you said and Tisha said. But so you first, um, not only are they killing themselves, they will kill their whole family.
Mm.
Mhm.
And kids, and it's like the kids didn't ask to be here, and if you're struggling with this, let your family go on. So I've seen that in the news, and I'll never forget. Tisha and I kind of had we struggled a little bit in COVID, where we did not have jobs. I was unemployed during COVID, and I think about how schools were closed, you have small kids, you had no other choice. That and it I feel like we're still feeling the backlash of what we experienced there, and people never have really fully recovered with jobs, with replacing that income. I have a colleague that was in my program. This lady came from another country as a whole doctor. Do you know she's working at a convenience store? She is a doctor. And I've met lawyers as well from, they came from other countries to come to America thinking that they're going to get a better life. And they're having to do manufacturing work. They're doing what it takes to make it. But it's not just, I say that to say some of the women, the Black women that are unemployed are very highly educated. It's just getting a footing back in the positions that they were in, or even being noticed. And a lot of times I've seen where companies and corporations, especially corporate America, they go for the younger talent because they pay them less. The trade-off is worth it to them to have that less experience because they're paying them less, and they're like, oh, they're smart, they're innovative, they'll figure it out. And that's what's also a factor that's kind of keeping our um, Black women unemployed. So, a couple of tips that I want to add. I took some notes because I was trying to be prepared for tonight. Um, excuse me, is to feel it. Like, ladies, you gotta feel the emotion. It makes you angry, it makes you sad. Please feel that emotion. Don't bypass it, but don't stay there either. Like, I just had this conversation with someone today, how you really have the power to overcome depression and anxiety by just changing your thoughts. So, every day, I know I was experiencing this during COVID. It's like, oh my gosh, my income has shifted. I don't have no money. What am I gonna do? And I'm sitting here trying to worry about pushing through. And it's draining. You want to lay in the bed, you just want to sleep it off and think you'll wake up and it'll just go away, it'll be gone. And that's not necessarily the case. So, changing how you think and telling yourself every day, when I was in the job market, it was weeks. I was applying for like 100 jobs a week. It's a full-time job. So you gotta put one foot in front of the other to be able to move forward. You gotta experience some momentum moving forward, but then celebrate the small wins. If you know, so I'll leave it there. Celebrate the small wins. And then my second point is you gotta do what you gotta do. So sometimes it's not, some people be like, oh, I can't work at McDonald's. But do you know, and I'll give an example for Bucky's. Bucky's is a corporation that pays really well, but it's a convenience store. It's a convenience store that pay more than some of the state jobs or the, federal jobs. So I'm not above working at Bucky's. I greet you with a smile for six figures. Like that's how much their managers make. And it's like being able to get past what you're what's above you or what's not above you. Being able to get past that because this season is temporary. So you don't have to live in it and wallow in it forever. You just got to put one foot in front of the other until your blessing comes. My next point is that your job was a role and not your identity. And Tisha kind of touched on that to don't give your entire life to your job because before your body is in the ground, that advertisement for advertising your position will be out. That job posting is out before your body is in the ground.
Mm.
So, don't make it your identity. They, of course, they kind of will boost you up to think that, oh, we need you, we really love you, we really want you, but let something happen. And you see how disposable you are. And I am a federal employee, so I went through my period of, oh my gosh, am I going to be cut? Am I going to have a job? I went to work like that for at least 3 months. And I was like, you know what? If it's my time, it's my time. And I had to come with that type of attitude to be able to be like, okay, I can't allow this role to have so much control over me that I'm stressing and I'm not healthy. I can't function because I'm worried about if I'm going to have a job the next day. So definitely don't make it your identity. Make sure that you're able to know who you are and understand that you are marketable and there's other opportunities out there, but you might have to work a little harder to get them, but they out there. Next point, protect your mental health because you literally can worry yourself to death. You can literally worry yourself to death. Stress can kill you. And, unemployment definitely triggers anxiety and depression. So, like I said, you can change that. The simplest thing to change that is how you talk to yourself, the things you say to yourself, how you think. Those are tools that will help you combat anxiety and depression. And that's so much so as changing an example is like, oh, I don't have a job. Woe is me. You can reframe that to say, I don't have a job today, but I'll have one tomorrow. And if you keep speaking that positivity in your life, what's going to happen? You're going to get a job tomorrow. You're going to manifest it. You're going to call it into you and you'll get a job tomorrow. So, like, just stay positive and protect your mental health. Next point is control what you can control. You can control how many times you apply for a job. You can control the places that you go to apply for a job. You can't control the company's decision to lay you off. You can't control who decides to call you back. You can't control um, choosing them over you. You know, like you have no control over that. You just have to maintain your worth, your value, know who you are, and just hold on to what you can control and really be clear on what you can. Number five, use your network. Like, don't suffer in silence. We are a sister circle, and like you'll hear us say repeatedly, we don't go through things alone. It's easy for us to pick up the phone and call one another and say, hey, this is what's happening to me. Did you experience this? How would you handle that? Like, use your network, use your circle. Do not go through this alone. Don't suffer in silence, because when you're in silence, that's the louder your negative self-talk gets. And if you don't have the tools to reframe that as of yet, or you're not in good practice of reframing your negative talks, it will overcome you. It can succumb you in and just suck you in. So you gotta make sure that you got a friend, you got a sister girl that be like, hey, stop that. Let's change this narrative. Let's do this instead. That kind of pumps you up and pushes you up. And I've been saying this over and over and over again. Reframe the moment. So sometimes rejection is God's protection. So, you might have lost that job because that ain't what he had for you. That ain't where you were supposed to be. You have other opportunities ahead of you. And that job loss was a way to get you through or get you to your next blessing. So, it's not always bad. And I do tell my clients that when you are thinking about the positive and you're reframe and you just come from a positive perspective, positive things follow. So just make sure that you are making sure that you are reframing it to be positive and find the positive in the situation. And I got two more points and then I'm done. So my brand is definitely sensitive, savage society. And I teach my clients that you gotta be a savage. Like, you can still be nice, you can be sensitive, but sometimes it takes for you to be a savage. So I've talked about the grit, I've talked about the determination that you need sometimes to pick yourself back up. So this is the moment you are unemployed. It's time to be a savage and apply for 100 jobs. If 100 jobs don't work this week, apply for 200 next week. It is your full-time job. When you're unemployed and you got a family, you have priorities, you got bills, you got responsibilities. It is not the time to sit on the couch and catch up on your stories. It is time to definitely go to work, get that hustle on. And Tisha and Erica talked about how we are all entrepreneurs. Everybody's born with a gift. You might not know what your gift is at the moment, but everybody is born with one. So if you have been so fortunate to find your gift or discover what you're good at, make it work for you. And be professional when you're doing it. If you're starting a business, you offering a service, be professional. And if you need to learn those skills, find somebody that's able to mentor you, teach you how to run a business, how to be professional, how to do payroll, how to do accounting. There are people out here willing to help you, and there are many, many, many like business networking um, think tanks and things like that that are around, and programs that you can enter. And it might be like a 6 to 8 week program. And at the end of the program, you get some sort of stipend. You might get a grant. You might get supplies. It's a lot of things that can help you get started with your business. So please don't ignore any of those opportunities. Also, too, go back to school. If that's something you feel like you need to do and you need more training, or you want to even switch careers, that's always an opportunity. There are plenty of programs out there for displaced employees, unemployed, like unemployment, or people that are unemployed, people that receive various assistance from the states and governments. You have opportunities to be able to become self-sufficient, and that's ultimately the goal. And my last point is, remember, temporary doesn't mean permanent. So if there are a lot of side hustles out here, I will not name them because they are not paying us, but there are plenty of side hustles, things that people can do to be able to make ends meet, to that you get paid the same day. Um, there are things that you can do. So utilize that. And like I said in one of the other points, don't be above it. Don't be above working at McDonald's. Don't be above working at the warehouse because it's a temporary situation and you don't know what door that will open up for you. You might have been an accountant for 10 years and now you're unemployed, but you at the warehouse and all of a sudden they need an accountant. You on the floor, you already internal. So, that could have been the blessing that God was setting up for you to be able to be in the right place at the right time. So don't discount any of that and just understand that being unemployed doesn't make you powerless. It gives you an opportunity to show what you're actually made of. So those are all my points, and I really hope that, this helps and blesses somebody to help them change their situation.
That was great. That
Yes,
was
it
great.
was. You
I
were
like
so on
that.
point with everything.
Yeah, I like when you said this was temporary because sometimes when people lose their job, especially if they're still like if somebody lost their job last March and this March again and they still unemployed, it seems like it's going to be forever. It seems like, and I can tell you, I've done the hundreds of resumes every day. I did that for so long and nothing came up. Um I think it's good to just make sure like that your mental health is there and that you're utilizing your support system and you're doing self-care, even if it's just going for a walk. If you can't afford the gym membership, just go outside, go for a walk, do something because you don't want to fall into a depression. I know I've done that. And what one time I was unemployed for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And I definitely got depressed about it. You do start to feel like your value has diminished. Um, and then, there's a lot of factors. Well, out of the 350,000 jobs that were lost, 308 of them, 308,000 jobs were government jobs. So they were easy to take off because that was the government making the cuts. So the vast majority, because so many Black people worked for the government and Black women, they said they made up 12% of the workforce. And so the jobs were eliminated over a 6-month period. So if somebody's been in working for the government for their whole life, that's like maybe the only job they had. They might be 58 and they've been there since they were 28 and they were planning to retire, but they're not quite ready to retire. What do you do? Because sexism is real, ageism is real. And then you may not have a whole lot of transferable skills. So it can be difficult. So I like, what you said about the networking, joining other organizations. It could be chambers of commerce. There's so many women organizations, Black women organizations, where you can just go to meetings and meet other people and network, letting all your friends, everybody know that you're looking for work. That's helpful as well. And now that we have the internet, you don't necessarily have to apply to 1,000 million jobs. You can go to an agency. You can go to agencies and let them look for work for you. Not that agencies don't really look for work for you. They fill the positions that come to them. Because if they get whatever, 10 open positions with different clients, they're hustling like crazy to fill those jobs. If you fit the criteria, they're happy to put you there, but they don't care who fills that position, long as somebody fills it, because that's how they're going to get their commission. So they're not going to say, well, let me ignore this opportunity and find you a job. That's not how they really roll. A headhunter would actually work for you. And the quality ones cost money and they're not cheap. They might charge you anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000, and they still might mess around and not get you a job, and then you got to go to jail. Because you give somebody $2,000 to get you a job and they ain't got you no job.
Try not to laugh.
I'm going.
Now you got to get a
She
lawyer.
was so serious when
$100,000
she was so serious when she said it.
No, I
Now,
love that though. I knew what you meant.
now you need a lawyer.
Yes.
That's a whole different kind of problem.
Right.
You got to, I mean, like, you know, you have a little savings, but it ain't gonna last but for so long. It's not like we sitting on $100K in the bank. It's not really there like that. You know, especially people with kids, you know, we've been making it work, you know. So it's hard. A lot of people say go into education, substitute teaching.
Yeah.
You need a lawyer.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't think
Yeah.
I can't fool with these kids.
Mm-mm.
I can't.
I would be in jail. I
wouldn't mind teaching adults. I wouldn't mind teaching adults, but you know, everything has its idiosyncrasies, and I have to say, you know, it's hard out here. You know, you have to assess your your assets, your gifts, your talents. What do you want your next step to be? You know, like, should you take anything just because it's there? Should you hold out for the job you really want? Should you look into entrepreneurship? Because whatever resources you have, you can't spread yourself all over the place. You know, and this is why I always say, when you have a job, to have another source of income.
Yes.
And
so, because I don't trust these companies as far as I can throw them.
I think I come from a totally different perspective, but that's just, you know, that's just Latrice.
Let's hear it.
That's right. You want to hear the perspective.
So I'm just going to touch base on like some of the COVID, right? So the COVID factor, like my husband, he was the breadwinner in the house. So he did all the working, whatever the situation was. I stayed home with my children. And I think at some point I was becoming depressed because I felt like I needed some form of independence for myself. But after COVID, and I'm gonna say this, during COVID, his job laid him off. He made the most money. So they were laying off people who made a lot of money. So he made the most money. So they laid him off. I went back to work because I work in healthcare. So, and it was depressing doing that as well. So it was like, wait, I mean, I love what I do, but this is also depressing because you see people going through changes with COVID and things of that nature. You see some of the sick people that you had to deal with. You see all of those different things. You see people scared to do and touch anyone or even have anyone come into their home. You see all of these things. So that was like another aspect. But also after the 2 years, so you know, once my husband had passed away, I did not go back to work. I was depressed. And I could not get out of the footing of getting my mind set above that. You know what? You're gonna have to get up. You're gonna have to start moving. You're gonna have to do X, Y, and Z. Even though I was a homeschooling parent, and to me it made sense, but it was and something that I love to do, but it was not what I needed to do at the time. So my depression fell because I was the type of person who felt like I had it. I handled it. I was going to handle it anyway. Like, I was responsible. I'm like, yeah, I got this. I don't need help. I don't need nobody to do this. We going to get through. It's going to work out. And that's where God was actually showing me, like, yeah, this is going to work out, but you got to let it go. You got to surrender this thing, because other than that, it's not going to work out. And also allowing the job to basically speak loud, right? And this voice in my head speak loud, or say, oh, you know what? We need you. We need you here. We need you to do X, Y, and Z. But I'm the woman who basically puts the job over everything. Not for money causes. You understand what I'm saying? Not for the purpose of finances, but for the purpose of a purpose. So I put the job as, you know what? It's something that's needed here. So how can I be of use to whatever it is that God is asking me to do in this time, in this need? But what the issue was with me, with any job that I go to, I engulf myself in the job. And not only that, but I put myself in a position of over exceeding as far as not even taking breaks, not even urinating during the day, not even taking a breath away from what I'm doing. So that's why I say I come from a totally different perspective. It's not that, so at one point, yes, I was unemployed, and felt like that depression was settling in my spirit. At another point, I worked and I was depressed because I didn't see that I was overworking myself. I was overextending myself all the time because I needed work to validate me, and I needed work to kind of help me get through my grief. So I overworked. I overworked myself. But now like I said, somebody, I don't know who it was. It might have been you, Janelle, who basically was saying, your way, a job as a positive. Yes, I look at my jobs as a positive. And at this point, that's all I can look at them. But also knowing when to have that boundary and separate, okay, you know what? I need a break. That's what I need. So I'm gonna take my break. I can't feel like I can't feel like nobody else can be responsible here, because if you thought they wasn't responsible, you wouldn't have hired those people. So those people are also responsible. So let me take my break. Let me go ahead and take a breather. Let me do what I need to do. Let me go eat. Let me go urinate. Let me go pee. Let me do whatever I gotta do. But let me take a break. So I feel like in some way, shape, or form, sometimes it just has to get to that point. And that's a good thing, because in order for you to understand that you need to get to a certain place, you probably have to go through that first. Because if you're a person, any person like me, you're like, I'm here. I'm here to help. I'm here to assist. And it's like, God's like, no, I didn't ask you to assist there. So let's move along. You understand what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, like I said, a lot of it is, for me was being engulfed in it, but not knowing how to know where that boundary needs to come in at. That's what the issue is for me. But also at a time and a place when I was depressed, and why I was depressed is because I was not allowing, I wasn't allowing that thing to be surrendered. And also Janelle said something where it touched base on humility, not being afraid to go to a certain place and be like, oh, hey, y'all, I'm not working here because that's below my pay grade. But the reality is that if you get to a place where you're thinking to yourself, oh, that's below my pay grade, how do you know how God going to use you to be put in a position in that job? You don't know. So you either going to do like Janelle was saying, take one foot, put it in front of the other. Take one foot, put it in front of the other. Take one foot, put it in front of the other. Even if you get 1,000 no's, you're going to get one yes. That's all that matters, is the one yes that you do get. And Tisha was saying it also, like, hey, maybe I should wait on this. Maybe I should do this. I will say this. The moment I went to go, and I was not applying for a job, and this is how God works. So the moment I knew that it was God that was speaking to me to put my children back into school, is the moment that he gave me a job. I went to go put my children back in school, and these people ain't know me from a can of spray paint. Asked me, did I want a job? My first love is always children. But I'm thinking to myself, like, wait a minute, like, wait, y'all don't even know me from a can of spray paint. But still, the reality is that it didn't matter because God put me in that position to be there for a specific reason. So at the end of the day, yes, I was a woman without a job. I was a woman that was not looking because I was depressed. I was laying in a bed. I was trying to figure out how to make things work for my family. I was trying to figure out whether or not I was going to eat. I was trying to figure out whether or not we was going to make it because we no longer had that breadwinner in this house. I was trying to figure out all of these different things. But the reality is that God said you didn't have to figure out any of those things. All you had to do was trust and rely on me to do it for you. So that's where surrender came in at. It wasn't that I wasn't depressed. It wasn't that I didn't have anxiety. It wasn't that I wasn't stressed. It was the fact that I was human. I was being human. And the reality is that every last one of us are human. But in the process of being human, who are we trusting? What are we relying on? Why are we relying on these things? Do you understand what I'm saying? So I think that's the question I had to ask myself. That's the question that I had to really get to a point of saying, do I really trust you? Like I say I do. So I had to get to that place. And I think it's a hard thing. It really is, because I still don't know. But it's not for me to figure out. It's only for me to put one foot in front of the other and keep walking. That's what God asked me to do. He didn't say you had to figure out anything. So yes, to the woman that I'm speaking to in this season, your job is not to figure it out. Yes, if you want to go get that job and you need to go do X, Y, and Z, you need to go and have that humility, whether or not it's a McDonald's, whether or not it's a Burger King, whether or not it's a Target, whether or not it's a Walmart. I don't know where you decide you want to work, whether or not it's the school. But the reality is that put that one foot in front of the other and just go apply. Even if you get a no from those jobs, continue to keep applying to the next one, because one of them is going to give you a yes. So yes, my thing to any woman who's going through in this season is just to keep going. I've been that woman. I've been there. I've done that. I've been depressed. I've been waddling. I've been trying to figure it out. But you don't have to figure it out. God said you didn't have to. You just need to put one foot in front of the other. And that's called having faith. Trusting what you cannot see, even though it's very hard to do that. It's very hard to trust something you can't see and you can't rely on. But the reality is that if you say you trust him to do what he's going to do in your life and use you the best possible way that he knows how to use you, because he is the potter. We are the clay.
You're absolutely right. And before I forget, because my mind be all over the place, you said something, Latrice, that really stuck with me when you said you were engulfed in your job. And I think that is why a lot of people become depressed and mentally ill over losing their job, is because they put their heart, soul, and everything into this one thing. And you should never put your heart, soul, and your mind into anything except God. You should not do that, because when people are ahead of something, people are so flighty and they're all over the place and they're all about their goal and what they're trying to accomplish in life. You are at the bottom. You're considered a bottom feeder. They don't care about that. They care about their overall goal and what they're trying to accomplish and whether you can fit into that or not. If you don't, they will get rid of you at the drop of a dime. So you definitely do not want to become someone who is engulfed completely in anything outside of your creator. You don't want to do that, or you'll be in serious trouble. That's where the depression comes in, the mental illness, and you just don't want to get out of the bed. You don't want to do anything. You don't want to get dressed. You don't want to do any of that stuff. And then now you got a family to take care of. So what's going to happen to your family if you can't pull yourself up out of that? You definitely don't want to do that to yourself. That is something that just stuck with me when she said it. And I said, that's the main cause. We are looking at these jobs as our overall lives, and they are not our lives. You do not attach your livelihood to something that can get rid of you in a second, and we'll do it and don't care. Like you said, when you hit that ground, you get in Who said it? They said when you pass away,
Me.
that you before your body, who was you teach was it teacher? Who was it? Janelle?
Me.
Before you right, before the body even cold, the minute they find out that you have passed away is when the ad for the position goes right out.
Yes. And I want to add too, and I know this from experience. The most corporations, like the easiest way to find a savings is through payroll and manpower, like human resources. They will cut positions to save money. It looks good on the bottom line when they're trying to, meet KPI. That's what they're cutting. And it's so unfortunate because they don't see the lives and the families that are attached to the positions or the dollars that you're cutting, and that it really affects people long range, not so you can get a bonus. So, I left corporate America to go to the government, and that was one of the biggest pet peeves that I had with corporate America is how they did not necessarily care about the family unit, and now that is trickling into the government. So, I'm a fairly new government employee, and people tell me all the time that this is not how it used to be. They are constantly speaking of the glory days of how it used to be, but that's just not the world that it is now. So it doesn't necessarily bother me so much because I'm used to corporate America, but for my counterparts and my coworkers that have been there for years, this is an absolute struggle. And even I think somebody mentioned retirement age, people that were on the brink. A lot of people took an early retirement. If they met the qualifications, they took it. They weren't necessarily ready. And they're like figuring out, well, what do I do now? So I've seen, even just in my agency, my office, so many people leave this area. They retired, they took the early retirement and left this area to go down south or somewhere that it was more affordable for them to try to stretch the little bit of retirement that they have. So a lot of people wanted to stay to, maybe get their kid through college or pay their cars off. It was a lot of, scenarios that people just wasn't ready for, and they had to succumb it. And you also see just in the government and in this area period, like husband and wife work for the same agency. So it's a possibility that both of them are now unemployed and don't have income and trying to figure it out. So who's to say what's to come? Um, Definitely try to hold on to your mental health, lean into your skills and talents, and what's for you. And this is definitely something I wanted to say. What is for you shall not miss you. So if it's for you, it's going to run you down. You're going to run into it. So keep that faith, keep that hope, knowing that what's for you is going to find you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well said. We have some good comments on here. Does anyone have anything else to say? Because you basically everybody covered everything pretty much. Did y'all have any like comments or any affirmations, any tips that you would want to leave someone about, the mindset that they need to have going through this season?
I think that they were excellent points. And I have to say, well, I guess from my experience and particularly the long time, because there was a time I was unemployed for a couple weeks. And there was a time, I worked in New York, I was young. There was nothing but jobs. You could walk out of a job and probably the next day start another one. But then as life went on, I think as you age, you get a little less marketable or desirable, because they can pay somebody younger less money for that position, and they can kind of mold them into the way that they want them to think. Sometimes they don't want you to think, or they don't want you to assert yourself so much. I think, just looking back, it felt like forever, but it was a temporary season. I was in a state because I was also going through a divorce. So my mindset was not right. So I think we have to be mindful, give yourself some grace, because everybody's dealing with something. So the job loss is not the only thing people are dealing with. They got families, some people taking care of their parents, their kids, their siblings, whatever's going on. There's things going on in people's lives. Financial, they could be having health issues themselves, and now not having health insurance. It's just, just know that it is temporary, and know that God has not forgotten about you. That was a big thing, because I was unemployed so long. Hold on, sweetie. I was unemployed for so long. I just felt like God forgot about me. I felt like I was in the wilderness by myself, and I couldn't see my way out. So just know that, God is not, he hasn't forgotten. He's still there. If you don't see him, it's probably because you walked away.
Mm.
He's never left. He's there, and he's not going to let you fall. Sometimes, he does make us uncomfortable, and sometimes he does pull the rug from under us to get our attention, to make us go in the direction he really wants us to go. Sometimes it could be that some people were sitting on a job and they have a gift and he wants them there. And you don't see it until it happens, so sometimes you got to trust his process. And of course, the natural is, yeah, we got to eat. My mortgage is due. So what's going on? And I would say, if you're in a serious situation financially, call your creditors, call them. Or when they call you, because they're probably calling you, answer the phone and just be like, listen, I lost my job. I ain't got it. I know I was talking to my mortgage company one time, and she said, can you afford, wait, I want to say, she said, can you afford $25? And I said, I think I could do that. And she said, just pay that.
Oh, wow.
And I did. And she said, and now you're not in whatever default or whatever the situation was. So, you can speak to your creditors and let them know your situation. And they will note it. And most of them have plans. They have plans for people that are in hardship, who are unemployed. They will put you on a deferment. They can put your mortgage on a 3-month deferment where you pay zero, and they will take those 3 months and put it on the back of the loan. You got to still pay it, but you can get a little breather now until you can get back on your feet. So there are programs. You can do it with your any lender that you have. It can be a credit card lender. It can be your car. So absolutely, face the music, and just talk to people, talk to your creditors, and figure out what it is that you can do to try to get back on your feet. And like Janelle said, I know it's humiliating. I worked 2 days one time in the supermarket in ShopRite, and I ran into one of my sorors, and I was so embarrassed. And she was like, thank God. She just said a prayer for me right then and there. And I'm telling you, humiliation was real. But somehow, it does end, and God will pull you through, and he might not give you the job you want right away. It may take a minute to build to that dream job. But if it's that mediocre job, it's a job where you got some benefits, and you and your kids can go to the doctor again. Because sometimes, I know for me, I just didn't go. I just wasn't at the doctor for like 2 years. Just didn't, no checkups, nothing. And then there are programs where you can go to the doctor for free. There are women's programs where you can go get a free mammogram, you can go get a free pap smear. So there are programs where you can get free medical checkups and things like that. So I did discover that. But, it's a trying time. I went to pantries. I've been on, when they say you've learned to be content with or without, I've been on both sides more than once. I've had and I've had not. And I've struggled and I struggled. So I know what it's like, and I know how easy it is to be angry, to feel like you failed. I felt like I failed. I felt like a failure. I was going through a divorce, so I was like, I failed in my marriage. I failed in my career. I did all the things that I thought you should do to not be in this position. And here I am in this position anyway. So, what good was all that work that I did, all the things, and I'm still in the same situation. So, I was angry about it. I was disgusted. I was disappointed. I was disappointed in God. Like, these are the blessings. This is it. I was mad. And so you're going to go through the emotions and allow yourself to be human. Allow yourself to be human, and take that part-time job. You ain't got to stay part-time, or if you was making 150,000 and now you got to make 50. I know it seems like peanuts, but them peanuts may help you pay some bills. It ain't gonna pay all of them, but it'll help you a little bit, until you can get there. And it may take a while. When you got them high paying jobs, sometimes it take a couple years to get back to that level, and we can't do but so much. You can't have two full-time jobs, so you just gotta, you gotta work it out, and keep pushing, and just don't give up. Don't give up on yourself. Don't give, just give God something to work with. He said, if you take one step, he'll take two. Know that some of it you just can't do on your own. You just need help. Just ask God to just put the people in your path. People will come to you. You'll find that you run into people. It could just be volunteering and you run into somebody who's looking for somebody like yourself, or they know somebody who's hiring. So you just got to keep, being out there, and don't allow your pride to block your blessing. Just let people know, yes, I'm looking for a job. Anybody know about a job for this? There's so many Facebook groups and LinkedIn groups. I get in one of them groups and be like, anybody hiring for this, and just put it out there. I'm looking for this position, and see, because sometimes these groups got 300,000 people in them. And somebody in there's somebody somewhere, you got to find them. And you gotta be willing to just keep trying. And I know it's discouraging. I told myself I was never gonna apply for another job like that. I just couldn't do it no more. I would sit there like 8 hours a day, every single day, and nothing. That it didn't work for me. It wasn't until I started working with agencies, and that's how that worked for me. And I've probably gotten like 4 jobs through agencies. So that's like my thing. And of course it depends on your position and your industry and what level you're on, your experience and all that good stuff. But, and be open to doing other things, other industries, other positions, until you can get back to where you want to get to, and for those who have a job, I know sometimes we can't stand things about our jobs, but let's be grateful that we have one, and again I say, and I got to listen to myself, but always try to have another stream of income. Just try to do that, so that if you do, God forbid, lose a job, that other little gig you got going, at least is some income coming in, and maybe you can build on that until you get another position. So I would just say, like, just try to keep your head up. Know that your value has not diminished based on someone's inability to see it or value you. If you have a $20 bill and you offer it to someone who's homeless, they are jumping up and down. They're so excited. They're going to run into the store. They might get 2 meals out of that $20, maybe 3. They might get 3 burgers and a drink, and they're like, thank you. They're so excited. But if you offer somebody who's making $200,000 and you be like, well, here's $20, they looking at you like, what is that? It's the same $20. It's the same $20. If you find $20 on the street and it's all crumpled up, or if you got it from the bank and it just got printed, it's the same value. I don't care what it looked like. You know, some bills are taped together, they dirty. It's the same $20. It will never change. You could have it. It could have been a $20 bill. Some people put their first $20 up there from their first job or their first business. They put it in a frame, and that was like 50 years ago. And if you take it out that frame, it's worth the same $20 as the one that just got printed. It's the same. The value will never change. Don't ever think your value has diminished because somebody doesn't value you. And women, we do this a lot. You know, we date a man who treated us like crap. And it was so bad that we started, it seeped into our spirit. And we started to believe that we are worthless or we have less value because people are not valuing us. No, that's their loss. They missed it because we still the bomb. We're everything. We're still beautiful. We're beautifully and wonderfully made. We're smart. We're brilliant. You know, I mean, there's no one should be able to do that, to just make you feel like you're less than. And you should never dumb yourself down for people because they're uncomfortable with your intellect or with your value. You know, she thinks she's so smart, this and that. I know I'm smart. Mm-hmm. No, I don't think so. That's a fact. I know I'm smart. You know, and I may never say it. I may whatever. I may say it, may not say it. But the fact that you are uncomfortable with it, I'm not going to change who I am to make you comfortable. I'm not going to dumb myself down. Right. You know, and so we got to start being more comfortable with the skin we're in. Because God made us like what I think Erica said, you know, we have so many gifts, so many talents, so many things. If we just focused on the four of us, oh my God, we'd be here half of the night with all the skill sets that we have and all the talents and all the different things that we do and how we impact people and help people. You know, people at work have no idea what we do when we walk out that door. They don't know none of it. You know, they know a little something, but they have no idea. None. All the impact that we make. Yes, we're valuable. Yes, we're smart. Yes, we're worthy. And if that place doesn't value you, go where you are valued. Yes. Go in the spaces who value you. Because life is too short. Be sitting up there letting people make you think that you're less than because they're less than. Those are insecure people. When somebody tries to dumb you down and make, you know, what you have seem insignificant, you know, like, oh, you got all, you know, you so smart, or they, you know, whatever, they try to make it negative. They always want to make it negative. Oh, you got so much education, you think you're better than me. No one ever said that. They think you're better than them. This is their issue, and they're trying to spin it on you. They're trying to tear you down to make themselves feel better about themselves. Yep. And the problem is, you know, when you sit in any situation long enough, it becomes your normal. So if you sit on a job or you sit in a relationship where someone is consistently tearing you down, even if it's in humor, because there's truth in humor. If someone constantly is tearing you down, you will start to believe it. You will come home and expect it. You will start tearing yourself down. You will join in and start keying with it. You will expect it because it happens all the time. That becomes normal to you. Mm-hmm. And you start to believe it. And then you start acting accordingly. And it's easy to do. So that's why when we see the first sign of that, we need to get up out of there. The first sign of it, we need to be up out of there. And I know like jobs, it can't happen like that. So start working on your exit strategy.
Yes. Tisha, I had just heard, I don't know what I was listening to, but it was like they were saying overachievers are the ones with the targets on their backs, especially in the workplace. And the underachievers are the ones that get rewarded because the people that are in positions to do the evaluations and do the promotions, they're not threatened by the underachievers. They're threatened by the overachievers and keep finding a way to try to push them down. And I just thought that was such an interesting fact because I know how I show up in the workplace. And I'm the type of person that I don't want to waste time. I want to do what I got to do because I got something else to do. So if they're
Right.
asking for, like if we're in a group training and they're asking for participation and questions, I'm the first one to talk because I'm ready to get it over with.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be labeled an overachiever because I'm always talking, I'm always trying to do what needs to be done versus the underachiever. And it's funny because I work with somebody and before I knew her, I was in a class with her. And y'all, she was in my group and doing no work. So I was like, oh, I'm about to find this chick because one of the times I was left to do all the work. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna find her when this is over. So I went and found her. I was like, yo, why you not talking? Why you not participating? She was like, I'm just here. I'm just here to be here because they told me I had to be here. And I'm like, do you really think that that's fair to the rest of the group? We had this whole dialogue, but now I constantly ride her for it. So if we're in a group now, I'd be like, all right, it's your turn to participate. You think of this is what we got to do. So you better think about it so you can talk. So I constantly encourage her now. But I just thought that was interesting. And I've seen people where they went up for promotion, didn't get it, but she did. And I was,
Mm-hmm.
wow. And these is people that keep their head down, do their work, quiet. You know what I'm saying? Like non-rebellious whatsoever, which I think are great qualities, especially for a promotion. But somebody who tell you outright they ain't doing it and you promote them, what is that? So yeah, it we deal with a lot in this work world. We really do.
Mhm,
We really do. So
mhm,
hang in there, ladies, for sure.
mhm,
The only thing I'm gonna say is that Tisha pointed out something. I say when you're in the waiting season, wait.
Mm,
Waiting does not mean sit. I
right.
think people think that waiting means that, oh, I just need to wait for God to give me that push. No, waiting doesn't mean sit. Waiting means wait on Him, but continue to do what you need to do. Continue to keep walking. Continue to keep going. And also while you're getting a closer walk with Christ, because I think that's some of the things that we try to figure out within ourselves, whether or not I'm doing the right thing. Just do it. If it's the wrong thing, guess what? You're going to learn from it.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's what people don't understand. We're so fixated on doing the right thing that we try to be perfect. And there is no one perfect other than Jesus. So I just feel like we can do the wrong thing, but we will learn from the wrong thing by doing it wrong so that we can do the right thing. So,
Right.
um, yeah, so like that season, that waiting season is a process. And because I feel like God is patient with us, He takes His time with us. So we want a whole lot of things. If it was our way, we would want 10,000 things. We would want 10,000 jobs to pay us 10 grand a month. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just so that we wouldn't have to, so we could retire comfortably. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is that a part of what God is doing in our lives is not comfortable.
Right.
It's uncomfortable. And the only way that we are actually learning is through that uncomfortability. So, when we're uncomfortable, we're like, oh my God, I should have did X, Y, and Z, or oh my goodness, I don't know how they think they're gonna talk to me any type of way. And God is like, you still need work on that. And
Mm.
that's probably why they were able to get underneath of your skin when they did say it to you. So it's a lot of things that I've been learning about myself, and a lot of things that God is showing me about others, and also about waiting season, and also about how he's training the heart to look more and more like him. So some of the things that we do go through, and some of the waiting, and whether or not it's a job, losing a job, whether it's taking care of a parent, whether or not it's losing a sibling, whether or not it's losing a spouse, whatever it may be. It could be something real simple. You could have lost your dog. It's still going to affect you in some way, shape, or form. So our mental and emotional health is the most important thing. Our spiritual health is very, very important, because who we rely on, who we're trusting in, and who we're believing also makes a world of a difference as well. And some of the times, whether we crumble or whether we're actually going to stand tall and stand strong. But strength does not look the way that we think it does. And I think somebody used to say that, oh, if you're crying, that's weakness, and that's not a sign of weakness. When you lose something, that's not a sign of weakness. That's also, it's a sign of strength, because you keep going. So and you're actually releasing those things outside of your body so that you can actually keep going. Like, you know what? I'm not giving up. That's the mindset we should have. But sometimes we don't have that mindset. But the good thing about God in it is that he's right there to pick us up. He's right there to pick us up. When we're ready and we say, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm ready. I need to go put my foot forward in the world, and what I need to do out here in the world. And guess what? He's right there to pick us up. So that's the best part about the love of Christ. So, but that's me. That's it. That's it. Anything else?
Well said, well said. I'm a piggyback off of what you just said sort of. We think everything is tied to money, material things, and all that stuff when something happens. It's not about that, it's about the journey. What's going on is it's a building of our character. So when God puts you through certain things and he cuts things off and he puts you here, he's strategically moving you throughout your journey in different places to see what you can handle or to build a weakness in you that you will need before he puts you in the next step. So you losing that job, he's saying, okay, you're paying attention to all of this, but you're not paying attention to where you are at this moment, what you should be asking for and what you should be waiting for. So it sounds good, right? Coming out of my mouth, but I know people talking about, oh, I need to pay my bills. I ain't got time to sit up here and pray and have all this faith and yes, Jesus and all of that. I'm not trying to hear that. And I get it. I get it. When you're faced with all your bills and stuff, you looking at your bills right here. You can't see God. So of course you go into the tangible thing. I need to handle this before I sit here and try to pray and go through all of this and hope it happens and whatever have you. I get it. Like I said, I've never been unemployed. I cannot speak to that. I only know loved ones who were unemployed and watch them go through and me helping them find a job and try to help them with certain skills and all that stuff. That part of it, but I was always on the outside. So I can only imagine what that feels like. Then again, I'm thinking about it and I'm saying I've like I said, on the news, there have been plenty of years who've gone by where people have committed suicide over losing a job, and you have to ask yourself a question, is it that deep? Is it really that deep where you actually would get deep down and depressed to the point where you are thinking about taking your life because another human being decided that they wanted to get rid of you? Yeah, and this is a human being that is no different than you. They just
Yeah.
hold the position. And the
You
position they got, God allowed them to have it.
Not to cut you off, Erica, but sometimes the rationale is people think that their family can use the insurance money. So
Mm.
my
Oh,
family
wow.
going to be, this situation will be solved if I'm not here. They can still go on. And, in another position I had a coworker that did that. And, it was just unbelievable because that really wasn't the answer, but he thought it was.
Wow. That is, see, and you know what? I've never thought about that and never heard anything like that before, that someone literally would take their own life because.
And some
Oh,
some
But
wow.
insurance companies don't pay for suicide.
sometimes
I
they do.
didn't think they
Sometimes
do.
they do. Sometimes they do.
Oh,
Yes. So now it depends on what the clause is, but most times the people that do this and they get paid for it, they have researched that clause to make sure that their family will
Mhm.
take it out.
oh, that is wow. That's deep. That really is deep. I have never heard of that before. The lengths that people, wow, wow. That's 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 a little scary. It's a little scary.
Highly,
But then
highly.
you got, I mean, but you still gotta, I mean, that's 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 a lot. You have your mental state, your thinking has to be way out there in order to do something like that.
A lot, sometimes it's desperation.
Yeah.
They're so desperate to get the bill collectors off their back. And like sometimes like it's factored in like how you were raised, what you were taught, what you believe. Like Tisha was saying, just talk to them. There are 1,000,001 programs. Just talk to them. But some people feel like it's the end of the world if they cannot pay their bills.
But how do they get, my thing is, and that's a question, how do folks, because I don't know, how do you get to the point where you believe that this is it? How do you get to that point where you lose a job and your mind says, because I don't have a job, I'm worthless? Where does that come from? Does that come from what they've watched growing up, what somebody told them, how someone behaved or something like that, that they believe that, they no longer can live without money coming in?
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
people equate their jobs with their worth.
Worth.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
just what
But
it is. A lot of men
how do
do
you
it.
get there
Most
though?
men do that.
How
When
do you
I
get
go
to
to
equating it?
Syracuse reunions, the first thing they ask, "Oh, what do you do?" Everyone asks, "What do you do? What do you do for a living?" One time I went up there and I told my two sorority sisters, "I'm gonna say I take care of my daughter. That's my answer." And then I said, "I take care of my daughter. I chauffeur her around to her soccer games and stuff like that." And then somebody asked me, "Oh, is your daughter a celebrity?" And I said, "No." And they were just like, "Oh, okay." Like you have no importance. Like they value what you do. And a lot of men do that. Not so much women. I guess women now, because so many women are in the workplace, but they definitely do. Your worth is connected to what you do for a living.
Yeah.
That's all people talk about. That's all
So it
you
sounds
see.
like people are taught
People
that.
are vying
Somebody's
to be
teaching
a
us,
celebrity.
somebody's teaching us
And
that. Somebody's
Oh,
actually
wait.
teaching it.
Let me just point this out. They kind of teach you that in school. So when you go to school, children they have an expectation on them. When they don't meet that expectation, sometimes you can feel like you're kind of worthless because you're not meeting that expectation. So
Mm.
it's taught in school. But the reality is that, because let's look at this standardized testing. Like if you don't pass a test a certain type of way, you won't get into a certain type of college.
True.
Like these things are already taught as their children coming up. And that's why sometimes we have to kind of reiterate to our kids that grades don't make you.
Mhm.
What you do, that doesn't make you. What God says about you is true. Now you can believe that or you cannot believe that. And sometimes we don't, sometimes even with us coming up, because don't get me wrong, I thought that I had to, even though I went to college, don't get me wrong, I went to college, I got a bachelor's, and most of the work that I do now is what I have in my bachelor's, but I never planned. I just was like, okay, let me go for something because I have to go to college because that's what my mother expected from me. Do you understand what I'm saying? But at the same time, it's like I used to believe that I wasn't enough unless I did go to college.
Mm.
And that wasn't the truth. That wasn't a fact. The fact is that, okay, if God allowed me to do something, he allowed me to show up in the world the way he wanted me to show up in the world, that's how I need to show up, whether it was going to be with a degree or not.
Right.
But the reality is that I couldn't understand that about myself because I didn't know who I was. So when we lose that sense of self, of knowing who we are, God said we are formed and shaped in his image of himself. That means we're formed and shaped in the image of Christ himself. So we have a piece of us is a part of him. So he says that we are beautifully and wonderfully made. So it didn't mean that I had to go out here and do 10,000 things in order for me to be great. You understand what I'm saying? So sometimes we equate what we do as greatness. And if we can't do that, then that means that we're not great. That means that God can't use us somewhere else in the world or doing something else. And that's what I'm starting to see now, even with where I work. I see it on a regular basis. Bad behavior gets a bad result. But what comes after that? Where's the conversation after that? Where's the conversation with, you know what? You could bring this up. You could do what you need to do to make the best possible choice that you need to make now. Even though you made a mistake, we still got time. We still got time to continue to keep pressing. We still got time to continue to keep doing what we need to do. But kids are made to believe that grades are the most important thing that's going to make them in this life.
Mhm.
It's not. And
Now,
I
what
realize
would you
that.
say to people who are not there yet? They're not walking with Christ or God, they don't believe. How would you get them to understand that your worth is not tied to what you do or the grades that you achieve or the job that you have? Because you do have some people who are not there yet.
Who are not there, and people who are not, you got people who don't even believe that.
Mhm.
So the reality is that God makes himself known to us every single day,
Mhm.
even when we don't want to see him. So even the people who don't believe in him, God
Mhm.
still makes himself known to them because God is everywhere at
Mhm.
all times, all at the same exact time.
Mhm.
And there are people that are not going to believe, but just like the sower and the seeds. So you have a set of seeds that were thrown out, and guess what? They were thrown on a path. And what happened is that the birds came and just swooped it. The birds came and swooped the seed right up. So
Mhm.
it didn't get penetrated. That's the adversary kind of taking that thing right out of our ear, saying, you know what? Yeah, nah. God ain't real. That ain't real. That ain't the truth.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean that we're not going to experience those things, but then God is going to do it again. He's going to put that seed there again. Somebody else is going to plant another seed. And then you may be that person that it lands in them rocks. It may spring up and you hear that word and you're like, oh, you know what? This sounds like something real good. It might be something I might want to explore. And then all of a sudden it gets choked out because the sun scorched it because it didn't land in good soil. Do you understand what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
now you're like, yeah, nah, you know what? That was just something that was in that season, but I ain't there no more. You might be somebody different. You might be that person that gets it thrown in those weeds. And guess what? Now you get choked out of life because you believe that yes, money equates to everything, education. And I'm not saying education is a bad thing because it is a good thing, but it's not the all in all of everything. So I'm saying that these people get choked out when you don't have the education, when you don't have the grades, when you can't make this and you can't do this. These are the people that basically believe that they are nothing, they have nothing, and they can't do nothing because they don't have these things. And God is saying, okay, well, now I need to plant a different seed. He plants you in a good soil. And that's the soil that he wants us to be in. Meaning he wants you to land in the soil so that you understand that he is the all in all. He is the great I am. He is the one that loves you the most. He is the one that's always going to be your provider, no matter what this situation may look like. So even though your season may not be a good season, it may even be a hard season. He never said that he was not going to be a hard season. He just said he was going to be with you the whole entire season. So I think that's where we have to get a better understanding of knowing that his love for us is much greater than anything else that we can ever obtain here on earth. So, and a lot of people, yes, I wasn't there at one point. I was somewhere else at one point. So, but the reason why I'm where I'm at today is because I had to go through some hard things to understand that, you know what? I have to trust God over this. Like this, if I don't trust him over this, then yes, I will be that person thinking about hurting, taking my life and doing things of that nature. Mm-hmm. So you got to come to reality of, do I trust you? Do I trust you? And when I say I trust you, that means that I must surrender what I desire. That means I must surrender what I believe, even what I believe. That means I surrender what I was taught. That means that I surrender all of the things that was me thinking me, I. It's no longer I, but him that lives inside of me. So that at that point, yeah, I'm not going to say that I've never been that person, but I am going to say I'm no longer that person. So that's the difference in the reality of for me. And somebody there, and somebody, my dog want to be yelling and screaming, but that's the difference from people who are experiencing things now and going through what they're going through. He is in my window barking, another dog. But anyway, sorry. I have the dog in the background, but just believe that people are struggling. We are going to struggle, but when we can trust that God is going to bring us out and he will make a way out of no way, when you down in your dumps, you may have a penny in your account and God will make a way out of that penny and cause it to be a dime. That's how I look at it. And it may not look like something so much for you, or it may not look like, oh my God, somebody just gave me $1. But you know what? That dollar can turn into 5. That 5 can turn into 500. That 500 can turn into 1,000,000. So therefore, we have to have trust and we have to have faith in what God is doing in our lives, not what things have provided for us to do in our lives. But he is the source of those things. And every good thing comes from him. So everything we have actually comes from him. All good gifts, all our talents, all of these things, but we are to give those things back to the world. So yes, he allowed us to get those things so that we can give it back to the world and share it with the rest of the world and make sure that people understand that they are not alone. Somebody said that earlier. They're not alone. You always have, a sisterhood, because God will put other people in your path that will give you things like that. If you need a sisterhood, that's what he'll do. He'll bring you sisters. If you need someone to someone to nurture you, he's going to bring someone like a motherly, a mom that'll be put in your path to nurture you. That's how God is, because he loves us. He doesn't want us to not have no good thing. So, I mean, that's just my take on it.
What's the name of the podcast? She Can Say It. She said it. Everybody said it. Okay. All right. We get ready to close out. Do any of you ladies have any more comments?
Nope.
You good? You good? All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to post a video, but before that, I'm going to make sure all the resources that were mentioned, and we're going to have some tips, some affirmations, some tools and stuff on the website for you guys to check out to help hopefully carry you through the season. So we will check you out on the next episode. Any comments, any questions, you will be able to post them below the video. All right. Take care, everybody. Until next time. Bye.